The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers. United Chargers presents the Grizzly range of EV chargers. There's the original Grizzly Classic, a powerful, heavy-duty, portable EV charging station built to withstand the toughest conditions. The Grizzly Duo, a dual-port unit designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a small portable charging station built with an indoor-outdoor rated cast aluminium enclosure. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. All Grizzly chargers come with a convenient 24-foot cable and the ability to adjust the current from 16 amps all the way up to 40 amps. That's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, they're IP67 rated. Built in Canada with the highest quality materials. Order yours now at unitedchargers.com. That's unitedchargers.com.
Hello and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's May the 10th, 2024, and this is episode number 36. Thank you very much for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about Tesla launching a new version of the Model Y, or is it? Kyle living with a refreshed Tesla Model 3, and WattEV opens a solar-powered truck stop with megawatt charging, and of course, much, much more. I'm Dominic Ioni. Joining us today is the exuberant Mr. Tom Malogny, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the metaphysician, Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which is available on all the best podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Out of Spec Studios, where he produces high voltage videos for a number of YouTube channels. All right, good to see you all.
Hello.
How you doing?
What's up, guys?
All right. So Kyle, I guess let's start with you. I understand that we're lucky to even have you this week after a near Donner's Pass kind of moment, after you got stranded at a charging station in your Audi e-tron. You have a video up about this harrowing incident, but maybe you could fill us in on what happened and how you managed to survive without eating Andreas.
Right. Well, okay. Bit extreme, but we found a charging station that basically wouldn't work with our car, and it was an interoperability bug between chargers and cars, which is I would say increasingly happening, especially with more models on the road, more hardware coming to the market. There's bugs, there's weird little things in the either DIN standard or ISO standard for car charging communication. And so in this case, for some reason, these chargers were on a software version that just wouldn't charge the e-tron. And of course, we didn't know that getting there. We checked the apps. It said they were available. PlugShare had a 10 out of 10 score on it. It was ready to rock and roll. No signs, no cause for concern. Other cars were charging fine on the hardware, but it was a bug with the e-tron. So of course, we get there and we're like, what the heck? Why can't we charge? Everyone else is charging. And it shows that interoperability is not solved, and the standard leaves too much open for interpretation. And there's little weird things with each and every car. And for some reason, this was just a bug. And thankfully, it's now since been patched, but not after I had to make a Twitter post about it and be like, you guys left us out in the middle of nowhere. What's going on? And we basically had to drive between 25 and 35 miles an hour to the next charger to make it there completely dead. So thankfully, we had, I think, 19% in the battery to make it to the next charger. But it was, 50 miles away, which in an e-tron, that's tough to do.
Yeah, so you drove 20 miles an hour for 50 miles?
Anywhere between 25 and 35.
Okay. That's still a long drive. My God.
It's a long time. Could have been home.
So right. So did you get any info on what exactly was wrong with it? Because they fixed it, right? So they didn't say what they fixed, really, right?
Right. It was just a software patch. And before the video went up, ChargePoint's messaging me, State of Colorado's messaging me, Kyle, we fixed it. It's fine. But I'm like, you left us stranded. It's not fine. So we posted the video anyway, because I'm like, people really need to understand that interoperability is so, so important. And the thing is, I don't think physical testing is the answer. I was just at a spot that's going to do some physical validation testing, but there needs to be some sort of algorithm or some sort of AI, insert buzzword here, that you can basically upload digital twins of the cars and chargers and have them do their own basically bug testing or regression testing in the cloud. It doesn't even need to be done in person. So I'm hoping someone comes up with a solution like that. And then, you can do physical validation testing with certain vehicles, but there's so many new cars on the road, so many new chargers. We can't just all plug every car into every charger and do that for every iteration of every software.
Right. So, as fate would have it, you were actually in Michigan this week to visit the American Center for Mobile Interoperability. Can I say that? Interoperability Test Lab. So, what exactly do they do there, and did they shine any light on your e-tron issues?
No, so this is it's American Center for Mobility is like a testing center,
Right.
and they're open basically for anyone to use their facility for range testing or off-roading. It's like a physical testing validation track, mostly focused on driver assistance systems, which is kind of cool. And so it's not really like a high-speed testing course, which are the places I'm used to going to. So it's kind of interesting to go to a test track and they're like, you can only go 65 miles an hour. I'm like, why are we here? This is a track. Let's go. So anyway, they're building like a hub where they're going to have a bunch of donated chargers. I mean, for me, it feels like ACM needs business. And so they're like, let's look at EVs. So they have a big interconnection to the grid, megawatts worth of available power. They're going to build a charging strip of a bunch of different chargers, bunch of different hardware, and they're basically going to allow automakers, I believe, to pay or at least to come and do testing on their cars, plug it into the chargers and make sure they work. It's not a bad idea. There needs to be something like that in the Detroit area. It's great for validation, but there's no way you're going to get every charging hardware there and every car there in order to do interop testing. It'll give you a good sense that it can work on common hardware. So it's a cool idea. It's in collaboration with Charin and of course ABB and Autel and Lincoln Electric and many other hardware companies were there at this event that I went to. I filmed a video. It's pretty terrible. I may not even post it. But I flew over just for a few hours to go to this grand opening, and I thought I'd see a charger in the ground, but nothing has been started yet. So we're still a little bit ways away.
Oh, okay. So I was talking with you last night. I don't know. Did anybody have anything they wanted to talk about that? Tom? No. Okay. So I was talking with you last night, and you were with Jordan, and you were headed to a house in the Hollywood Hills, which is a location for a General Motors energy vehicle to house installation, which I assume with a Chevy Silverado RST or two, a GM Energy Power Shift charger with bidirectional capabilities, GM Energy V2H enablement kit, and a GM Energy power bank. Maybe they have these labeled differently, or you can correct me if I got this all wrong, but this is what they talk about on their websites, the GM Energy website. So what can you tell us about this place and how these components work to power your home with your truck?
So yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, we were in town for something completely different, and then I happened to just load up my email, and I don't know how I found it, but it said, something like May 9th, which was yesterday, and there's an event, and I had never opened the email, and I'm like, we're like 12 miles away from this cool event. Let's go. And it just worked out perfectly. Otherwise, we would have missed it. And so basically, GM retrofitted a $25 million house, I think is what it was, for sale on Zillow. It was crazy. Beautiful home. And with their entire bidirectional charging system. It's similar to Tom's Ford Sunrun system. And so I'm really curious to get his opinion of this system versus the Ford system. I'm installing the Tesla system here pretty soon with the Cybertruck bidirectional. And GM offered to basically, I don't know how this will all work, but they're like, we want to do a video, is how I pitched them, of comparing your system versus Tesla's system versus Ford versus all these other ones. And we probably can't put them all at the same house. Right. We'll probably put them one at like Colton's house or Jordan's house, something like that. I'm putting the Tesla one in. I'm moving soon to our new place. And so that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to playing around with that because the Tesla system is totally different than these. But essentially the way this works is it comes with an 80 amp EVSE. That 80 amp EVSE also has a DC bidirectional component to it. So just like Tom's Ford Pro charger in the back, it charges the vehicles through the AC pins. You can derate it to whatever the maximum allowable your circuits have. You don't need to run it at 80 amps. If you don't have 100 amp dedicated power, it will do 9.6 kilowatts of DC back to the inverter. And then it goes into a sub panel, which you can wire up your whole house. There doesn't seem to be a limitation on the sub panel. You can just max it out as long as there's no more loads than, I guess, 9.6 kilowatts coming at any particular time. And then there will also be a battery component, and that is launching later. So just the EVSE is $1,600, which is very expensive when you consider the Ford one comes with the top trims of the F-150s at no charge, or at least they did for the launch year.
Not anymore.
Right, yeah.
It's $1,310 now.
Sure, so it's even still less expensive. However, you can probably pick those things up on eBay so cheap because they came with everyone's truck and no one installed them.
Right.
So, that's a plus. And then the whole system, including the EVSE, excluding the batteries, is $7,500, $7,300. So that's very expensive. And the cost for installation is also going to be very expensive. GM's partnered with Qmerit, who's a supporter of Tom's State of Charge YouTube channel. You'll see them right up above his left shoulder. But essentially, Qmerit and GM will install the system. You don't have to use Qmerit, but they'll find a local electrician that's trained and go through the process, make sure it's all safety certified, it sounds like. GM's including them for RST Launch Edition. That's cool. They didn't tell me that yesterday. The EVSEs, that's great. Glad we have someone who knows more about GM than the GM folks over there. That's great to have Nebula here. Anyway, it's expensive. It's going to be expensive to install. It's Gen 1. They say they want their Gen 2 product within a year to a year and a half on the market already. So I'm not sure who's going to spend $7,500 plus install on a Gen 1 system when the next one's only a year away or a year and a half away. And so I did an interview with one of the guys responsible for this, and that's what he was mentioning. The battery systems, we don't know pricing. We don't know output. We don't know, I'm guessing it's 0.5 C of discharge. That's standard for stationary energy storage. So you can go up to 35 kilowatt hours. And then, probably half of that of discharge. It's, it was a cool system. They cut the power off on the house, about through their presentation. And then the whole entire house ran, a 10,000 square foot house ran off the Silverado. They were cooking. They had every light on. They had the bar was going, and it was using about 5 or 6 kilowatts. I was looking at the truck that it was pulling out continuously. It seemed to work fine.
Yep. Do you have the video there, Martin, by chance?
I
want me to pull it up? I can pull it up.
If you could. Yeah, so I didn't see the video on the page. Sorry.
No problem. Let me see if this works. I just want to show you the whole kind of process, and if I can find the right screen. Oh, there we go.
So there's a power
You guys
outlet.
Not
aren't
shared
seeing
at the
that.
moment. Let me add
The
that.
Dark Star battery right now is providing power and communications to the inverter and the hub. The hub is locking out the grid so that there's no power that comes from the grid. Now it's communicating through the power shift charger back to the vehicle. They're making sure they have a solid connection between the two of them and that they've got a good ground. And the vehicle is now communicating back to the power shift saying I can give you power. And that power comes back through that to the inverter and then back to the hub and then to the house.
There you go, like magic.
Yeah.
So it's 40 seconds on the nose for it to kick on. It can do it when the trucks are completely dead. And a couple comments, this is the Gen 1 system. Brandon brings up a good point, and I spent a lot of time talking about this in my video. There's no communication standard for vehicle to home, vehicle to grid, vehicle to X. It will come in ISO 15118-20. They will have provisions for a lot of this, and this system can be adapted to work with whatever the new standards happen to be. So while today it only works for GM Ultium vehicles, it will be updated to support any vehicle they assume, they hope. And so that is at least the goal for this system, that you won't be locked into a GM product.
So you get.
I'm sorry.
That's absolutely required. These systems are dead in the water until that happens. Because, for instance, the system I have at my house, the system's like $4,000, $3,900. I got the charger for free, but then you have an installation. The installation, in most cases, will cost more than the system because you need whole home upgrades. It's a very expensive to do, whether the GM system or the Ford system. I'm assuming the Tesla, but Tesla's a little bit different. In any event, until these vehicles, you can use any vehicle with the system. Nobody's going to buy these because, for instance, I sunk, let's say, $12,000 into my house. What if I don't want my Lightning anymore?
Right.
You know, it's almost makes you now I have to keep my Lightning. Like, what if I love the new the Cybertruck or the Silverado and say, shit, I want to get that truck. It's a better truck. But I sunk 12 grand into this, so I'm going to keep my truck now. So until these things are interoperable, these systems are DOA, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I basically, I met a guy who's getting one for his Lyric, and he's customer number 1, and he was there. And yeah, he didn't really know much about electric. He's just like, I'm a big GM guy, and this is a new thing, so put it in my house. But also, you know, I think not only that, Tom, and you know, it's hard to say if it will ever work with other vehicles because it hasn't been proven yet. You can only experience the benefits of this system when you are isolated from the grid. It is only when there is a power event and you lose power, which in my house has never happened, and I've lived there 4 years. So the benefit of being able to, you know, basically discharge the truck and send it back to the grid when electricity is expensive, and then pull when electricity is cheap, and become my own, you know, power bank that I can then make money with the battery in my truck. This system does support that, but the utilities that they're partnering with currently don't. So that is a software problem, but this system physically will support the power sharing, especially when you have the home battery backup. I just don't really see the benefits of this versus the truck already has a bunch of onboard inverters. If you have like a refrigerator or something, just run a couple extension cords out to the truck. It already has 240 volt power for high power loads. And I mean, that's the sloppy way of doing it, of course. Or just get a generator for your house because it's so much cheaper. I mean, this is really cool. I'm going to put this into my house because it came with my Cybertruck. I'm going to put something like this in because I'm an EV enthusiast and I'm interested in the tech. The general public, this is a very Gen 1 system. This is just for enthusiasts to play around with new hardware. And you've got, you know, 15, 20 grand sitting in your pocket to throw away at this thing.
Right. That's most of us, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, I wouldn't have gotten my system if I wasn't a content creator. You know, it just isn't worth it. As Kyle said, I would, you know, well, first of all, I have a whole home natural gas generator. I do get power outages here in New Jersey. We get a few a year, sometimes long ones. Since I've lived here, we've had power outages of 14 days, 11 days, 10 days. So we're not talking hours, we're talking weeks. So it happens. And that's why I got the natural gas generator. But, you know, even with that, it would have been much more cost effective for me to use Pro Power onboard with a bunch of extension cords, get a small generator, hook it up with a transfer switch for the other things in the house. And the combination of two could power everything. Because I know in Kyle's demonstration, he showed that the 9.6 kilowatts can power the house. And it can, if you distribute the power properly, but you can't run anything big on that. Like if you have an electric range, if you have air conditioning running, you're not going to be able to power the rest of your house unless you have a really small house. But that, you know, it has to fit. That's not enough. You couldn't charge your electric car and run all your power in your house unless you really were careful with how you distributed it. Like my natural gas generator is a 16 kW natural gas generator. And even that, I maxed that out during power outages. So, you know, the 9.6 it'll do in an emergency, but it's still not ideal. And these systems cost so much money.
Right on. All right. So we should move on, I guess. We had a question earlier I wanted to share. Gary Bushy asks, power question. Any guesses when we will get all the info on the Rivian refresh? Just to kind of sidetrack us just for a little bit. Do we know anything about the Rivian refresh end of next month?
I mean, not that we can say.
It's coming, Gary.
It's
coming.
That's it. They haven't announced any dates for that or anything?
They have. I don't think I can share the dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's all under embargo at this point.
So there's stuff coming sometime. These guys know about something already, so it's probably not next year. It's probably relatively
It is not
soon.
next year, but it is
Right.
not super close in timeline.
Okay, so yeah, it might be a little while, Gary. And thank you for that. We appreciate it. And
But Kyle and I will have the news on the podcast as soon as we're allowed to talk about it.
All right. So, moving on then, Kyle, one last thing for me. I guess I also understand you've been driving the Tesla Model Refresh this week. Now, you did a review on this car maybe like 7 months ago, but this was just a good opportunity to spend a little more time with it. So you did a 10% challenge with it and have a video up with that result. So maybe you could start by telling us if you're as excited by this refresh as you were like 7 months ago.
Yeah, maybe even more. This is
Really?
so nice to live with this car. I mean, I called it the best car in the world when I reviewed it. For someone just looking for a car, this is should be the default choice. It's comfortable. It feels very well built. It looks fine. It has great performance. It's, finally quiet in a Model 3.
Right.
Like actually quiet. And it has a great sound system. Like it really doesn't do anything that poorly. I borrowed a viewer's long range all-wheel drive for about 5 days and used it just to drive around, just to live with it. As someone who owns a previous generation Model 3, it was great to have the Refresh 3. This was a dual motor long range on the 19-inch wheels. So it wasn't great in terms of using it for testing, because I like to do all the stuff on the Aero wheels. So I did a 10% challenge. I did a charging test. We'll talk about that in a moment, but just living with the car, it's such a high quality, nice experience. There's a couple things that bother me. The turn signal buttons on the steering wheel, they don't bother me actually on my Model S as much, or even the Cybertruck. That's actually totally fine. But here, where you have to interface with the button is very specific, and you have to push hard. So I don't know why they can't just put the Cybertruck buttons on this one. And little other things. Backseat got a little bit smaller than the last generation. Okay, that doesn't really affect me, but it certainly will affect some people who, Uber and everything. But you can still fit a person in the backseat, no problem. I've sat in the back before. So, just living with this thing has been such a pleasure. It's been so nice. And I think most automotive journalists have no idea how good this car has gotten. A lot of them should just go to Tesla, take a 1-hour test drive, and experience it. And at least, they can come from experience when reviewing their cars. So this is an amazing value. And even better than this one is, don't buy the dual motor long range one. Just get a rear wheel drive LFP, because that actually beat this in the 10% challenge.
Really?
The problem with the long range all-wheel drive is it has the LG battery pack, which has been in Europe for a while, and I think we've had it in the US in certain cars here or there, and it just charges like crap. It's not a good charging vehicle. And so, you get a 250 kilowatt peak, but only below 10%, and then it just falls off a cliff. Really poor charging performance. And that is, I think that's a bummer. We have charging curves. I have to do a video on it, on the battery that's in my Model 3 and your Model 3, Dominic, the old 74 kilowatt hour pack. That's the best charging Model 3. And then it all went downhill with the new batteries since then.
Man,
and got slower and slower and slower. So I'm not sure what they're doing.
Counterintuitive. Because you kind of expect them to get better and better, but
they're actually getting worse from a charging perspective. Right. And I confirmed it too. It wasn't just this car. Like a bunch of owners of the new car and European owners are like, yeah, that's the curve. And no one's happy with it, by the way. Anyway, there's a bunch of people that are upset with the charging performance. It's not the end of the world. It's not like, it's not like BZ4X slow or anything like that. It's still pretty good comparably, because the car is very efficient. So you can add a lot of energy back in, but it's just it's 2024. This is Tesla. They should be pushing the limits. Let's give it a juicy fat charging performance. So my recommendation is to go for either the rear wheel drive LFP, which actually, because it's so efficient and it doesn't have the high peak rate that this car has. It's, I think, 170 kilowatts max. It's still very efficient. In the 10% challenge, that car is awesome. So yeah, exactly. LFP is 40 something minutes 0 to full versus almost an hour and 15 minutes 0 to full in this one. It's awesome. And for your daily usable range, the LFP, you can charge it to 100% every time, versus this, which you have to charge to 80% maximum every day, and less would be better for it.
Right, but there's a huge delta in ranges. Like the long range all-wheel drive is EPA rated for 341 miles, and the rear-wheel drive LFP is 272.
Right, but on a road trip, once you exhaust that initial range, the LFP is a faster road tripper. So once you,
Okay.
if you, but once you blow that initial charge, you're actually going to be quicker in the LFP.
Okay, so here's the monkey wrench. Tesla Model 3 performance.
Right. Well, we don't know anything about it yet. No one's really tested it hardcore yet.
Oh, like the charging. But
Right.
You expect
It's
it
the
to
same
be,
battery. So that's going to charge better than the dual motor. So that'll have a
Right.
better charging battery.
Right.
So that's, of course, the one to buy because that gets the tax credit, which the dual motor doesn't at the moment.
Right.
So you either go base or max.
Right. And the rear-wheel drive doesn't get the tax credit either, right? So
Right. No.
so with the delta between those prices, man, it's really hard to turn down that performance version because I mean, it
Yeah,
doesn't
if you
quite,
care about performance, but like most drivers don't.
right. That's
And
true.
they just need a car.
They may
and
not like
just
those
get the
performance
cheap one.
seats, actually. Have
What was that?
You've sat in the performance seats, right?
Yeah.
Do you think like a normal person would be cool with that, or do you think they'd
They'd probably
prefer,
find
like,
it slightly uncomfortable.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like I was talking to my dad about it. He's like, I want a new 3 Performance. I'm like, the seats are a bit too tight. For me, they're kind of perfect. But if you're anything larger than me, or if you're just getting in and out of it a lot as your daily driver, they have really aggressive side bolstering. Like, don't
Right.
get the Performance unless you want to rip. Because the standard car is already faster than most comparable combustion vehicles
Right.
and handles better.
Yeah. Hey, did you really feel the handling difference in this go around?
I didn't really drive the car hard at all.
Okay.
But I will say the suspension's wonderful for daily driving. It
Right.
really smooths out so many bumps. It's almost perfectly tuned. I was like, I would not change this a hair. I really enjoyed it for just daily cruising. The car was stiff enough to feel what was going on, to control the body motions, but it still was soft and supple over bumps. And it has that frequency response damper, which is becoming more common in the industry now. It's pretty cool. So I'm excited about all of that.
Right on.
For fellow pedants that will be interested in noting that the little redesign of Tesla's configurator and the design studio, the toggle for the gas savings, I haven't been to this site in a while, the US site, it was toggled off, which I thought was interesting to probably nobody but me. But it's always annoyed me on the US site when you first went to it. It just showed you the price with it on. And yeah, I went to it a moment ago, but it showed it off, and it was actually defaulted to lease as well. But like I say, I've got no cookies set. I've not been to this site in such a long time, and I use a different browser actually to stream on our StreamYard software. I normally use Safari, and this is not. So this I have no history. So that was the default. It arrived on the lease price with the gas savings off. But there we go. I say interesting to almost nobody, but I think it's interesting that maybe they've listened to some feedback or a change of strategy. I don't know, but it always bugged me when you'd see the price and go, hang on, they've done some weird calculation here. Just what is the car going to cost me? For the UK, they've always done it like that, just giving you the headline price. I'm not sure they can advertise it with the savings, but
Right.
looks nice. I like that. It looks nice, and that still was it Ultra Red. It's called, yeah, $2,000. Okay, it's cool.
I had the same experience a moment ago. I just navigated to their site, and it put me on the lease, which I've never had it go to the lease option before, and also with that little thing turned off.
So you would get the tax credit on long range all-wheel drive. Is sort of the money off if you lease it. You can't buy it at the end of the lease, I suppose. I hadn't thought about that calculation. Yeah, it defaults to lease. Anyway, I didn't want to derail the conversation. That was
Just
interesting.
get the standard car.
They've made that look quite nice now.
And Martin, the interesting thing is since you mentioned it, I went over, and with the Model 3, as you said, the gas savings was toggled off. But then when I jump over to look at the pricing for Model Y, the gas savings is toggled on by default.
Oh no,
which is kind of weird. Yeah,
gonna mess with my mind.
Yeah, I'm just did the same thing. Yeah, because that's what I was thinking.
it's
too.
off for the 3, but on for the
Yeah, and
Y.
it's on with the Y. Oh no.
Right. Whenever I go to the site, that's the first thing I look at, that little button or whatever, just to make sure which number I'm looking at, because it's gotten me before,
Yeah, and it's defaulted to cash price with it on, whereas 3 defaults to the lease price with it off. But there we go. Interesting to
Right.
almost nobody but me.
Right. So what kind of result did you get with the 10% challenge?
Yeah, it wasn't good. Like I mentioned, it was a little bit less than the old LFP car, which is the pre-refresh car. And I think it did 100 miles on the nose. which is totally acceptable. But like Model Y was right up there.
Right.
Pretty much every Tesla falls between in that range around 100 miles. The S and X's are a little bit more like 120-ish. But I don't know. It's acceptable for a road trip. No one's going to get stranded. No one's going to be super annoyed with the charging performance. But as someone who wants to see progress and decrease charging times, we're going the wrong way. So that was annoying.
Right. So I just want to mention to the Tesla Model 3 did get its EPA energy consumption figures put out this week, and it's 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty good. That's better than
On
the
which car?
On the Tesla Model 3.
But on which version?
I assume it's the refresh.
Yeah, but which drivetrain?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the article. Let's see. This is range consumption for the updated 2024 Tesla Model 3, also known as the Highland. Website includes the entry-level rear-wheel drive and long-range all-wheel drive versions. While the latest performance is not yet listed, the results. So looking at this,
and they say one configuration gets less than 250 miles. But what's that one?
It's you can scroll down the page there, Martin. I think you can see this little chart with all the 4 different configurations on there. So 25, 26. 20, so it's going to be one of these 25 ones. The rear-wheel drive is 25 kilowatt hours per 100 miles, and it's the rear-wheel drive 2024, which is that's the same as last year's. I'm not really sure what they got going on because they don't really spell it out in this little chart. 3.9, 130 miles mpge, or 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour. Marginally lower than the previous model year, 131 point. So yeah, it looks like it's not improving then, right?
Well, the testing got more difficult.
True. All right. Well, I just thought I'd point that out. It just made it a lot more confusing.
Yeah, I'm more confused than when we started that one.
I'm sorry. My bad. So last week we talked all about the Tesla Supercharger network. CEO Elon Musk had fired most of the Tesla Supercharger team, but we didn't want to talk about it too much today. But he did put out a tweet regarding that last night. I don't know. Did you guys see this?
I didn't see the tweet. What did he say?
Yeah, I did see it come through, but I had a couple of beers and I wasn't paying too much attention.
What? Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up and see. Pull up people, and it's like everybody but Elon Musk.
What was his point? In essence, what was he saying?
I think he was saying he was going to spend they're spending like $500 million on the Supercharger network this year, and we'll put up thousands of new chargers or something. It seems kind of like.
Huh? He just fired everyone. Maybe he had a couple of beers last night.
Right?
I thought it's very interesting that that companies are starting to come out and say, hey, we're trying to make inroads and we're reaching out to anyone who's had an experience that, whether that is staff and whether that is Supercharger team, whether that is land. We talked about it on the podcast. We talked about EVgo and Revel. BP Pulse came out. That's the subsidiary of BP that do the EV charging this week, to say anyone that was halfway through a land deal or halfway through an installation with Tesla, please reach out. I forget the CEO of North America's his name, but it's saying, hey, we want to hear from you. We want to expand our network. And I think that was more of a land deal than BP taking on their staff, but I'm sure everyone's hiring.
Right.
So we've seen a bunch of stories like that this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a weird thing happen to me. I don't know if it had anything to do with the layoffs, but the timing was fun. So I ordered a NEMA 1450 adapter for a Tesla mobile connector. A friend of mine actually needed one, and he needed help. I said, I'll just order it for you. You pay me. And so I order it, and I get it. And then 2 days later, I got another one. Okay. But I only paid for one. I only ordered one. And my first thought was like, is it like chaos over there? And people are like trying to figure out what to do. It could have just been a harmless mistake that would have happened anyway, because it's probably a totally different department or whatever. But the timing was just so rich. It was like, is this what's happening? So I got an extra NEMA 1450 adapter for a Tesla mobile connector. I'm sure I'll use it at some point.
So I found a
Nice.
tweet. Oh, I found
Go ahead.
a tweet real quick. So just to reiterate, Tesla will spend well over 500 million expanding our supercharger network to create thousands of new chargers this year. That's just on new sites and expansions, not counting operation costs, which are much higher. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on there, but yeah, I don't know how all that works, but that's the tweet. Just relaying the tweet.
And the Atlanta-based company EnviroSpark, must admit, I'm not hugely familiar with them, but they did an $11 million dollar raise and then a $50 million raise. They got some money. Have that on their homepage. I think they've got a bunch of chargers in the ground, by the way, some technology in the ground. So they're the real deal. And they say, ex-Tesla supercharging crew, we want to hear from you. Send your resume to all our jobs are belong to you at envirosparkenergy.com. Which is, look, I think that's a nice way of just saying, hey, we got some money. We want to expand. We want the best people. Whether you want to relocate to Atlanta, they can be remote working jobs. I don't know. But yeah, I must confess, not hugely up on EnviroSpark, but they got some money to expand, and they've been around a while. So
It says
love
they're
that.
an industry leader.
But
Must be true.
it must be true. It must be true.
Can't say it if it's not true.
I mean, lots of places like that, I think, are trying to take advantage of the news.
But we hope those people all find jobs somewhere.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
then from
No
what
one wants to see people unemployed.
from what we can just very quickly on this sort of try and work out from the forums and stuff like that, it seems like it's going to be a regular Sunday night thing. So Sunday midnight, new round of layoffs. They've had the last 4 weeks. It's been the last three Sundays, last 4 Sundays,
Right.
starting with the big one. But it looks like that will carry on until Tesla are done, firing people. So
Yeah.
well, that'll happen this week as well. I don't know. It's happened the last 4 Sundays. You just get an email to say don't turn up. So
Yeah, I think they were going to do slash what 10% or something like that. And
That's way past 10 now.
Yeah, it seems like
think-
it's right.
yeah,
I think
it's-
we're closer to 20 now.
or 25%. Yeah, start with 141,000 employees. I think we're, approaching 20 or 25% of people, laid off. And they're doing it around the world. China has had the sales department particularly hit, and in Germany, a lot of people let go from, or offered to let go from Germany, with a 9-month severance package because us damn Europeans with our stupid employment laws, which means you can't just sack people. So there we go. We don't earn as much as you, but we have some. There's got to be some good thing about earning on average less than American workers, and that's probably going to be one of the benefits. So I'm not sure how many people are taking them up on that offer or not, but they are downsizing everywhere. So it's not just hitting certain places.
Well, we've been talking a lot about Tesla this show so far, so we might as well keep going. Kyle, your stainless steel triangle got an update. Did they break it? Is it worse? What they fix?
Oh, it's massively improved. It has everything that it should have launched with, except for autopilot. That's when I would have considered it a complete package. But finally, I have a locking differential. Keep in mind, mine has the individual motors in the back, so it will do that virtually. But I have a locking front differential, which works. It's very cool. I have a whole off-road menu in the truck now. And I just saw the truck. I've been traveling. The truck's been out here with Jordan for some time. Has over 11,000 miles on it now, approaching 12. And it will have over 12 by Monday because Jordan's driving it back to Colorado right now. So, we're really using that thing. And I got to tell you, it feels creaky. I was driving it around LA. I hit the brakes and the driver's seat moved forward a little bit. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And the lug nuts fell off of it. But I can't blame Tesla for that.
Right? Well,
What was that?
Did you swap the tires out on that at some point?
No, we never had the wheels off. Maybe we did. But what's crazy to me is Motor Trend just torqued them down last week, a week and a half ago.
Okay.
And so they were just torqued. And we get to the airport and the nuts rolling around inside the aero wheel cover. Again, we can't blame Tesla because it doesn't have 0 miles on it. It's been our vehicle. We've messed with them, of course. But I just don't understand why they would back out. It's like a pretty standard design. So anyway, we're going to keep an eye on it. And before we do anything performance testy or whatever, we're always going to torque that thing down, as you should always do, to be honest. Sometimes we get a little bit lazy with that. So it's good to check. But we checked around all of them once we saw one that fell out of the spot. And there were like 2 or 3 others that were just finger loose.
It's
And
crazy.
we're like, oh,
That's
no.
weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, I don't know. very weird. Again, we don't think anyone messed with it because it had the covers on, which block the lug nuts. So I'm not sure. Yeah. But we can't go after Tesla for anything like that just because we've messed with the truck.
Just saying, it's just a weird situation for any could happen, but it happens with that, vehicles all the time.
So I'm not sure what's up with that. But yeah, the truck's getting, once we get a couple creaks and things figured out, every time I accelerate, it sounds like the doors are just not attached, but I think these are all known little things that they can adjust. We have to get the recall done. I have not had it in for service once at all for anything. So basically, once we get it back, it'll go to Tesla Loveland with a long list saying, hey, please fix everything. We haven't had time to get it in for service. Here's the 10,000 miles. Here's everything that's wrong. They'll bring it back, hopefully like they did with my Model S, get it sorted, and then we'll have a solid truck. And I'm very much looking forward to daily driving it again. Just driving it around the last couple days in LA has been so nice to me. It's certainly shows that to me, it's like Tesla did a 5,000 mile durability cycle on this. And then once we hit 7,000 miles on our truck, it just started all falling apart. But I love the way it drives, truly. I mean, it's really cool. The steering's great. The truck looks cool, I think. I'm really kind of into it. And it's now normal in LA where you don't feel weird driving it. People are so used to seeing them.
Okay. I saw it. Did you see T.I.'s wrap on his Cybertruck? It's like
nope.
It's like sort of rusted, all like antique, weathered look. And
I think I did see a picture of that.
I thought it looked really good, but it's like it's like
that's cool. We were talking about that last night. It looks awesome.
Yeah. So, what would you rather drive, like the Cybertruck or the new Tesla Model 3?
I mean, both. That's a great 2-car solution right there, Dominic.
Yeah, I mean, a car and truck. I mean, it's kind of nice to have, but I know they're very different vehicles, but. They both have kind of great things about them, like rural steering in the truck, right? A bit,
yeah,
and the steering.
Honestly, I would prefer the truck just because there's room. Like I can put anything I want in there. Yeah, just like a nice big cabin. Yeah.
I feel like that, but I also like the small dimensions of the 3, which you just kind of rip around traffic and not.
Yeah, 3 performance, sure, of course, but that's why you need. I like multiple singular use vehicles. That are like, I use this car for this, and I use this car for that. And I'm very lucky that I'm able to do things like that. But that's how I try to have my garage set up, which is I use a specific car for a specific purpose.
Right. All right. So speaking of Cybertrucks, Tom, you had one recently for a few days, and this week you published your comparison with the Ford F-150. So I watched this whole thing, and I thought it was like very thorough and even-handed. So I just want to get I don't know if we talked about this much last week, but I just want to get your kind of thoughts about it and how the response has been.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the response has overall been pretty good. There were a couple categories that people disagree with me, but I said that in the video. You're going to disagree with me. This is my personal opinion. I'll explain why I chose this over that one. Then you could say, okay, I don't like his reasoning. I'd choose this one, and that's fine because when we review cars, we try to explain everything to people, but our own personal prejudice always spills into the review and what we talk about. I mean, for instance, people I think agreed with a lot of the categories. I listed 14 different categories. People agreed with a lot of the categories. They didn't agree with, let's say, for instance, the appearance. Okay, I gave the Cybertruck the win.
Right. Now,
a lot of people were like, "How could you do that?" It's so polarizing. A lot of people love it, but a lot of people hate it. And my reasoning was, look, I got to give Tesla credit for stepping outside of industry norms and building something that nobody else had the balls to make, or even wanted to try to do something so freaky because they're afraid, it's going to lose money. The investors are going to kill us. I'll be fired. And, Tesla can do that. Elon could just say, make something that looks like a triangle with wheels on it. No car company could do that, but they did. And it seems like it has, for the most part, people like it. So I gave it the win in that category. I took some heat for that. And one of the categories where I think Kyle's going to really disagree with me was charging. And I gave the Lightning the win on charging, which, you would say, well, how could you do that? the Cybertruck charges so much better. And it does. It DC fast charges a lot better than the Lightning, and it's more efficient. So you're getting more miles in X period of time. And if you're a guy like Kyle that puts 11,000 miles on it in 2 months, then yeah, that would be something that he would say that he'd put it in the win category if this was Kyle's video. But a guy like me, who 90+% of my charging is home charging, for me, the fact that it has the 80 amp onboard charger gave it the win, because I can pump kilowatt hours into my Lightning. Like when I mentioned a case where I drove home from Vermont recently, and I got home with 5% stated charge, but I needed the truck like a couple hours later. Actually, a buddy of mine needed it to load some stuff up, lumber and stuff. He's doing some renovations at his house. So he said, could I borrow the truck for you? I said, yeah, sure. I'll be coming home from Vermont. I got home 2 hours later than what I was planning on. So now it was either, okay, drive to a DC fast charger that's 15 miles from my house and charge it and come back so I can give him the car, or plug it into my 80 amp charger. And in a couple of hours, I've added, 60, 70 miles of range, and it's enough for him to drive. So for me, that ability is better than, is more important than me staying 15 minutes at a DC fast charger the once every 2 months that I actually need to use a DC fast charger on a long trip. So I took some heat for that. People are like, how could you give the Lightning better charging win? So anyway, but I think a lot of the categories people agreed with, a lot of them are slam dunks. Like, you can't give the Cybertruck a win in the frunk category.
No.
You can't give the Lightning the win in software. The Lightning shouldn't win with off-roading. So all things like that. But then there were things like the offloading power that I gave to the Cybertruck that people gave me a hard time about, because the fact that the Cybertruck isn't complete. Like Kyle talked about getting the system itself is ready. The software on the Cybertruck isn't. I actually know of 4 or 5 systems that are installed already that I was going to go make a video with, but the Cybertruck won't work with it yet. So the Tesla's still working on the software to make the vehicle communicate with the system. So there's systems out there installed in people's homes ready to go once the truck can actually do it. So I did get, and I understand that, where people said, how could you give it the win? It doesn't work. It's not ready. And so I agree with that one. Could have went either way, but I gave it the win because it's for people like that already have the Tesla Solar or Tesla Powerwall. My God, you just get the wall connector and you're done. It's you don't need to spend $10,000 in installing the system. It just seems like it's a more elegant design what Tesla did, and it's going to work with their ecosystem. The Lightning system, although now, from what I understand, now there is a way to get the Powerwall to work with Ford's intelligent backup power system. When it launched, it couldn't. Nobody could figure out how to make a Powerwall communicate or work with the Ford intelligent backup power system. But Qmerit, one of the engineers at Qmerit recently told me they have it tackled, and now they've actually made it work in a few of their customers' homes. But any event, this was my thoughts. And the reason why I did this was, as I mentioned to you guys, I had the opportunity to buy a Cybertruck when it first came out, but that wasn't my reservation. It was a friend of mine's who decided he didn't want it. And he said, look, we can buy it under my name. I'll even insure it in my name. You pay for everything. We'll keep it for a year, and then I'll put it in your name. He goes, I don't want it. I trust you. I know you're not gonna, have any problems. We'll get a lot of insurance just in case. But I really wasn't comfortable with that situation, keeping a vehicle for a year in someone else's name. God forbid something happened. I wouldn't want to be able to loan it to people like I'd like to. So I passed on it. But I still have my reservation, and I'm thinking, at some point, the end of this year or so, Tesla's going to call me. So part of the reason why I rented it was to review it, but to also spend some time in it and decide, do I want to get one of these? Do I this was part of the comparison. And at this point right now, and I reserve the right to change my mind, I don't think I'm going to get it. I think I'm going to keep the Lightning, and I think I'm going to borrow or rent a Cybertruck when I want to. But it was hell cool. And I have a lot of fun. One of the things that I really liked about it, what Kyle talks about, is the driving experience is really good. The steer-by-wire, I thought I was not going to like it. I really liked it. The four-wheel steering works awesome. The vehicle drives like a smaller vehicle. My Lightning drives like a bigger vehicle. It feels like I'm driving a semi, but it just floats along. It lumbers around the turns. It leans. It rocks. But it does have a better, if you want comfort and long time driving. Kyle can tell you, in the drive to Florida, it's a great vehicle to drive 1,000 miles in 18 hours. The Lightning is, or maybe the Cybertruck is too, but I didn't get that with it. I thought it was a fun vehicle to drive hard, to have some fun with, but just for everyday driving. And honestly, I know I've said this 1,000 times on this show, the frunk on the Lightning makes it for me. It is so unbelievably useful, guys. I use it all the time. And the Cybertruck's frunk is a joke, unless you are a golfer, because it's perfect for like a set of golf clubs, but it won't even fit. I put in like a juice box, charger box. It won't even fit one juice box in there. And the Lightning can fit 3 with tons of room on the sides. So, I mean, that to me, for everyday functionality, the Lightning's frunk is so useful. And it's just, if the Cybertruck had a frunk as big as the Lightning, it would be really hard for me. That might have been the thing to say, maybe I'm going to take a play on this because it's so much fun to drive. But right now, as of today, I don't plan on buying one, but I reserve the right to change my mind when I get that email from Tesla that says, hey, do you want one? Here it is. So
What do you have anything reserved from Ram too? Are you on any of that list, or the Silverado list?
I put in a reservation for it, but at this point, honestly, the Ram, I could see why people would want for that range extender. If you need to tow long distance, Kyle's a perfect use case for that. But for me, as I said, with the Lightning's range, my measuring stick is going to my in-laws, which I'm going to tonight too, up in Vermont. It's 210, 220 miles, depending on which route I go. The Lightning can make it in any condition, even if it's 10 degrees out in the winter. That's my measuring stick. I don't need single charge range longer than going to my in-laws' house in Vermont. And for me, the Lightning has checked all the boxes. It has been the perfect electric truck for me. I know it's not for everybody. This is for Tom Malogany, and nothing has beaten it yet. Now, Silverado might be a better play. I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time with it. I like the mid-gate idea. I would use that. I would have used it last year when I renovated the house next door to mine. I bought my neighbor's house, totally renovated it, me and my friends. I used Lightning's Pro Power on board for days at a time when we were doing a service upgrade. I had all the contractors in the house with extension cords, and like an idiot, I never recorded it. And I never, sometimes I do the stupidest things, like for social media. Kyle would have gotten 300,000 views out of what I did with that truck in the house. I had it up on the front lawn with all extension cords and lights, and there was a table saw out front, and I didn't even, my thought was like, get the work done in the house. Like, we only have a few days to get this done. And I didn't even take any pictures or videos of it. But to me, it does everything I needed to do. The Cybertruck was more of like fun, like a toy to me, which I like toys. I like to have fun. But that's really why the Lightning came out ahead for me. But everyone has to make their own decision.
But Tom, I totally agree. The Lightning is just a more useful vehicle. The Cybertruck's, I always called it tech bro. It's a statement piece. It's an interesting technological experiment, and it is enjoyable and fun. But if you really have to work, like if you're doing things, you get an F-150 Lightning, and it's just awesome at that.
But I can't underestimate how much fun the Cybertruck is. It's not like a little fun. It's a lot of fun. So, I'd love to have one. I'd love to have that also, but there's a limit on Meredith will throw me out if I just keep buying EVs. I mean, we have 3 now and there's only the 2 of us. It's like no more EVs. And I have other reservations, so we'll have to figure out what to do.
I just realized I need to make a video. I need to have a Cybertruck versus the GMC Hummer EV, because I think the Hummer EV is just a riot to drive. It's just so much fun. It's also it's actually a lot bigger than the Cybertruck, but it's got the rear row steer as well. But like Cybertruck, but it doesn't have the drive quite thing. So I think, it would be an interesting comparison. Oh, Emma is here. She says, "Agree, Tom. I literally bought my Lightning because of the frunk." Yes, yeah, Lightning definitely. Even with the over the GMC Silverado frunk, I think the Ford F-150 Lightning frunk, that's the way to do it.
The Silverado's big, but it's not as wide. For some reason,
Right.
They, I don't know technically why. Kyle might know why they couldn't extend it out to the width of the front of the vehicle. It's closed in like the Hummer. I think it's like exactly the same as the Hummer.
It's very Hummer-like, yeah.
Lightning's frunk is just unbeatable. The Dodge's frunk, I think, is going to be slightly bigger. The Ram's frunk, I think, is going to be slightly bigger.
Right. So I meant to mention. So there's two Ram pickup trucks coming. Right. There's the Ram Charger that's got the extended, range extender, like a plug-in hybrid with a ton of all-electric miles. But then they have the Ram Rev, which is available in like a 350-mile battery or a 500-mile battery.
That's the one that'll have the big frunk, not the Ram Rev.
Right. So you're right, obviously, because there'd be an engine up in there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that looks like. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's your Ford. Yeah, your mega power frunk. I feel like they need one more word in there, like ultra mega power frunk.
Super mega power frunk. That's what it needs to be.
Mega.
And the outlets up front are super useful. Like I'm surprised that Tesla didn't put at least one outlet up there. Because I've used those a ton of times. Like we have these outdoor parties, outdoor concerts here in town in Chester, and me and my friends go. And of course I could back up and have the bed, but I just pull straight in, open the frunk, and I have like my portable pizza oven in there and stuff. And having those outlets there are fantastic. It's so useful, and I'm surprised Tesla didn't just put one outlet up front there.
I just love that you have a portable pizza oven that you take in your truck. That's awesome. For viewers who don't know, Tom used to have a restaurant with a pizza, Italian restaurant, right? So lots of pizza going on. Or was it specifically a pizza place?
It was an Italian restaurant with pizza, though. But,
okay.
Here's the interesting thing that I didn't know this, that Emma's saying, that Darren Palmer and Emma came up with the name Mega Power Frunk. I hadn't heard that anywhere before.
That's great. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's awesome. I love that. I mean, I love the name of the frunk, what they did with that, because they need to, you could talk it up a little bit, because it is, remarkable, and a new kind of feature that we haven't seen before in trucks.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah, and Pete Bremy is mentioning. I forgot to mention that the Keurig. I also bring a Keurig when we go and plug that into the front there. So we have coffee and pizza.
You need a camp kitchen is what you need. You need like a pickup truck with a camp kitchen. If only if only someone made something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, it was mighty unlikely, said at Pete Bremy, and a Keurig too. He was referring to our trip to our race to Florida with Kyle, where me and Pete were like living in luxury, and Kyle was eating potato chips.
Right. All right. So, hey, Tom, you also put out a video this week talking about Electron's NACS to CCS1 adapter recall. So what's that all about? We just had, they just put out these third-party things and they're being recalled.
Yeah, the thing happened that I was hoping didn't happen. Was everyone was worried about safety. Everyone was worried about non-approved adapters and don't use them. They're just going to avoid your warranty. And I went out there and made a couple of videos and said, look, the A to Z adapter seems solid. They built it to UL 2252 specs. It hasn't been safety certified. Then I did a video on the Electron and I said, this thing seems solid. Everything works fine on it. If you can't get your official NACS adapter from at the time, only Ford was giving them out. Now Ford and Rivian are giving them out. People want them right now. I understand that. It's going to take months and months to get them. I said, these are the two that I feel comfortable with. There's other ones on the market that I won't even talk about because they're very poor quality. So after I do this, then Brendan Flash, who's probably in the comment stream here today, got one that he ordered. I had one from Electron. They gave me one early. I got it back in early February. And so Brendan got his that he ordered, and noticed that you could pull out, and I'll do a quick demonstration. You could pull out the NACS side of the adapter, without depressing the button that shuts off charging, and that's a problem. So
Yeah.
if when you connect your NACS connector to the Electron adapter here, you're supposed to have to depress this switch on the bottom in order to be able to pull it out. But look,
Hey.
it pulls right out.
Well, that's
You're
not
not
good.
supposed to be able to do that, and that's a safety issue because basically you're unplugging it hot. Now the pins that are inside here should that are shorter, the communication pins or the pilot pin. When you unplug it, it should shut. When you start to unplug it, those pins will disconnect first, and it should shut off charging. So there is a safety mechanism built in that should stop it from having a violent event inside this connector with sparking with all the current. But it's still wrong. You can't do that. For instance, if you look at the A to Z adapter I have here, when you plug it in, lock the adapter on, won't.
Right.
No matter how hard you pull, it won't come out. You have to unlock it to pull it out. And same with the official Tesla adapter. Put this in.
This is one that you got from Ford, right? The Ford
Yeah, this is the one I
sent
got from Ford. The one from Rivian should be coming soon. But
Okay.
no matter how hard you pull, it's not coming out. You have to press a tab and unlock it. So
Right.
that's how they should work. But so what happened was, and I demonstrated in my video, the Electron adapter that they sent me, which is this one here originally, when I tested it with the pull test, it doesn't release. This one actually works. Oh, now I pulled it. Well, it was working fine until I've done this like 100 times, and I think I've like loosened up the pin in here. But I show on my video, I'm pulling it really hard, and it doesn't release unless I pull it really hard. If these came like that, no one would have noticed it. Brendan wouldn't even have noticed it. But I've done it so many times, I think I've like rounded off the top of the locking pin here. So anyway, they because of Brendan's finding and video, the National Transportation Traffic Safety Board Administration, issued a recall.
Right.
So now these are being recalled. I just had to put this out there that this is what's happening because just 2 weeks earlier, I put a video showing like, look, these things are relatively safe. I think it's okay to use in the interim, but both Electron and A to Z were waiting for the UL 2252 to be done so they could admit them. I think that A to Z already has it being tested, certified by UL. I believe that they already paid the fee and it's in UL certification right now. I don't know about Electron. Obviously, with this problem right now, they'd have to get redone. So now they're changing something inside because from what I understand, the manufacturer that was making this, not Electron, the contract manufacturer, had this pin that's inside that holds it either incorrectly manufactured or incorrectly put into the adapter. It might have been put in backwards. So now they're shipping out the new ones. And Crazy Postman, I forget what his name is, but that's his social media name. He got one yesterday. Mine's coming today. And he did a video just yesterday showing that if you attach your NACS connector to it, it works now. It doesn't release, but it really doesn't release.
Oh.
Even when you depress the tab, he can't get it out. And now he's been a full day and it's stuck on his NACS, on his adapter is stuck. So now Electron sent out last night emails to everybody that was getting the replacement one, including myself, with a video on how to properly use it. Evidently, if you, the right way to use it is to, while your adapter is attached to the vehicle, that's when you press this button and it will release. But if you do what he did, and you do it just like in your garage, like I just did, it won't come out because it has to be tethered to a car. And I don't think Crazy Postman owns a CCS car. I think he owns a Tesla. So he's stuck with it in his garage right now. Somebody's got to go over his house with a CCS1 car so they can plug this into the car so he can release his adapter. So I think that's what they're saying. This all came overnight last night. Brandon emailed me and sent me the email that he got. And then I looked and Electron contacted me and sent me a video on how to properly remove it. And this is what you have to do. You have to take take the NACS connector out first before you release this. I can't imagine that that's how it's supposed to be. All that said, I had a scheduled interview with Electron for this week, and they canceled the interview. I think they wanted to get all of this settled before I talked to their CEO, which I've talked to already, Chris Mulwald. I interviewed him back when they first came out with this. So I believe that interview is still going to happen at some time soon. But I think he wanted to know everything about what was going on, because the CEOs don't always know every single thing of what's happening with every product and every manufacturing. I think he maybe wanted to get up to speed with everything, and they wanted to make sure the adapter is good to go and ready to go. However, whatever happens from this, it's a black eye to the adapter industry, let's say. So I haven't lost faith in Electron. I don't like what's happening with this yet, but they have other products that I've used for years that are made, well. I think this is super unfortunate, and how they handle it is going to really determine how I feel about them, and I think how a lot of people feel about them moving forward. If they do the right thing, step up and say, look, we had a problem here. We had a contract manufacturing issue. They didn't make it to our specifications. There was some scuffle getting it fixed, but now everything's right. Look, it works. We've submitted it to UL for UL certification, which they have to do, and which is what Chris told me they were doing as soon as they could. As soon as UL was accepting these for testing, they were going to do it, because he said he designed it to pass UL 2252. So we have to wait till we have that certification done, and I will feel comfortable when these adapters are UL certified.
Right on. Well, thank you for that. Anyone have any adapter questions? No. Okay. So for the FSD curious, this week I did. So I have FSD supervised on my car, and I've got version 12.3.6 this week, and I ran it through my standard testing loop, and I put the video up on Drive Electric with Dominic, like I do with every update to the FSD software. So I just want to say it was a relatively smooth run with only one fail, the same kind of place where it fell down last time. It just the navigation leading up to this intersection, it doesn't, instead of going in the far right lane, it went in the far left lane, so then it has to make 2 lane changes like really close to the intersection, which is kind of sketch, and it ends up making that final lane change over bike lanes basically. So I put that down as a fail, but other than that, I mean, it was in lighter traffic than usual, and I thought it was a little improved, like the deceleration modulation, so basically the braking in traffic. The last time I did the run, it seems like it accelerates hard, and it still accelerates too hard. And I believe Elon Musk actually mentioned that on Twitter this week. He mentioned it still accelerates too hard. So at least someone's aware of that. But it didn't seem to be like, cause before it was like just almost like porpoising. There was just up and back and forth. Give you motion sickness. But it seemed a bit better this time around. I want to throw it against a few more difficult things really, because this run was kind of it just handled it really easily. So I want to put up some more challenges to see where it is still falling down, and I believe also the next update we get, the nag is going away. So when you're driving along on Tesla FSD, it'll the screen will start flashing if you don't put any torque on the wheel after a little while, or just like the volume buttons, so the little wheels on the steering wheel. It'll and if you don't do that, it'll kind of turn off or lock you out of the system, give you a strike. So, but that apparently is going away in the future, which is near future with the next version of the software. So I'm not sure how I feel about that exactly. I kind of like the idea for myself. It's right there on the wheel all the time. I don't really need to be nagged about it all the time. But there's a lot of people out there who maybe, I think, put too much faith and confidence in FSD right now, who may be, if they're not nagged to hold the steering wheel, maybe not going to hold the steering wheel. And I just think it's a safety issue that you need to be doing that, especially if, like in my car, the camera, there's a little camera in the interior. It's supposed to be tracking your eyes. So I believe, Kyle, when you drive your vehicle, your Tesla with a Plaid that had FSD or something, you had FSD, if you looked away just even for a moment, it would like beep at you or something. Mine doesn't do that. It's like there's no camera there at all. But I know there is, because I can look at it through the app and I can pull up the camera view and, it's there. But it's, as a safety mechanism, it's not. I need to show this on video, and I'll try to do that tomorrow, put one together. And also, speaking of FSD and all that kind of stuff, news this week that investigators are exploring, exclusive from Reuters, in Tesla Autopilot probe, U.S. prosecutors focus on securities and wire fraud. So they're exploring whether Tesla committed wire fraud, which involves deception in interstate communications by misleading consumers about the driver assistance systems, like I believe they mean autopilot and FSD, full self-driving. So this seems to be more related to making statements for years, like your car will drive across the country and you can make money with your car as an autonomous ride-sharing vehicle, and then charging big money for the feature, and all at the same time. He's been saying this for quite a number of years, and no cars are, it doesn't have that capability yet. So a lot of people spent a lot of money for capability that's just not coming as they expected. So anyway, the government is looking into that, and I know it might be a big case. It might just blow away. I guess we'll see. I don't know. Anyone have any opinions about that?
That's what they got Trevor Milton on. It was one count of securities fraud and 2 counts of wire fraud. So that is going to be a very interesting topic to follow, I would suggest. Lots of Tesla fans would say that their CEO has merely been optimistic, but then Nikola fans would say, well, Trevor Milton was optimistic. He happened to bring a truck onto stage that wasn't. It was just a rolling example. It had no drivetrain inside it, and of course they released the video of it rolling down a hill to imply that the Nikola truck was running. But that is similar to what Tesla's done in the past, putting out that video very early on of the FSD, or even if it was called that or not then, of the car driving with no interventions. But that was subsequently proven to be a pre-planned route that was programmed to do that. And I think that is the most likely way that you'll try and stop these claims of CEOs saying that, our products will do X, Y, Z. And Elon Musk is perhaps the most famous example of that, of saying, you'll be able to summon across America, as long as it's covered by land. You can summon your car from anywhere. And what was that, 2018? So that's 6 years ago now.
Yeah,
it's 2018. I think he said you can summon your car from anywhere, and by the end of next year. And so, at what point is that optimism? Is that trust in your engineers, trust in your company, the people who work for you, or at what point is that securities fraud and conning investors, and wire fraud and conning retail buyers? So that will be a big test, I think, of the law around that. But that was what they got Trevor Milton on, was over-promising and under-delivering.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what the distinction is either. Like, how to distinguish between being optimistic and saying, we're working on this is coming, you're going to be able to drive cross country, and just being optimistic and then influencing people to invest in the company, people to buy tech that doesn't show up or doesn't show up in the timeline that was promised. I mean, how many times did we hear by the end of the year you'll be able to drive coast to coast with no interventions? Is that just his optimism that he really believed that they were going to get there, or was it him saying, we need to pump this stock, we need to get more money into it, and nothing's going to get more investment in this company more than promising that these damn things are going to drive by themselves. I'm going to be the first one to do that. So I don't know where you draw the line between just being optimistic. I'm glad I'm not the guy making that decision, but somebody is, and it's getting looked at now. So this is be interesting to follow it at least. I'm not gonna fall on either side because I don't know how to judge the difference between promising something and then saying no, you're being fraudulent. So, but
right.
It's interesting to watch.
Leave that up to the justice system to figure out. I don't want to have to sort that out. Right. So
I personally have some anger for the individuals though that believe. You can be smug after the event, can't you? And say, well, I never really believed what he was saying. But it's the same as Fisker owners. I feel really angry for them because it's people work really hard for their money. Some people work really hard for their money, and I think some people genuinely believed what the CEO was saying that it would get more expensive over time to buy this piece of software, and over time it's proven to get cheaper. And the people that bought it, and then the rental option came out, and they feel like, well, hang on, I'm out of pocket. I feel and only more recently have you been able to transfer that. Something that you effectively bought, you can transfer that to another Tesla, which seems to be permanent, but was billed as a one-off, never to be repeated offer last year, and then you can do it. Which, by the way, I think is fair. So they should always do that. And when you trade your vehicle into Tesla, has a zero value to it. So there's elements that affect. I don't worry about the investors; they do their thing. I don't understand the whole share price thing, but for the retail customers, I feel some anger. I also saw Elon Musk's tweet. Somebody was asking about Cybertruck, autopilot, FSD, and he was like, "Well, we have to focus on the 99% of the cars that are on the road." So, if anything, it's months away, and I feel angry for those Cybertruck owners. I know if you got $100,000 to spend, you could argue, oh, they can afford it, but that's that's neither here nor there. Whatever the vehicle costs, if you bought the truck thinking, oh, I love Tesla, I love autopilot and FSD, and I'm going to buy a Cybertruck, and it's on the website and it's advertised, and he tweets last night to say months away, if ever, and you think, well, regardless of what the vehicle costs, if those people can afford it or not, I feel angry for the people who put faith in any company, really. So I hope that taking Tesla out of it, hopefully we can have a more, respectful kind of consumer corporate kind of culture thing, maybe a little bit in the future, where people aren't taken for suckers or mugs. That kind of behavior, I think, makes me quite annoyed actually when companies do that and think, oh, we can ride roughshod over people.
Yep, I'm with you.
There you go.
I'm with you. Thank you. All right. So let's kind of clean this up. We got a couple of little news stories we want to hit real quick. Again, so Tesla, I mean, this has been like a total Tesla show. Apologies for all of you in the comments who are not the hugest Tesla fans, but that's just the way it is this week. So big product news of the week is Tesla has introduced its new Model Y rear-wheel drive, or did it? So Tesla had a rear-wheel drive Model Y on its site for $42,990. But this new version is $2,000 more at $44,990. Offers more range than the previous one with 320 miles of EPA range. That's 10 miles more than the dual motor version and 60 miles more than the previous rear-wheel drive Model Y. It has a top speed of 135 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds, so that's a tenth of a second quicker than the previous rear-wheel drive version. So with the federal tax credit subtracted and the delivery fee added, you can get a Tesla long-range Model Y, pretty good deal, $39,130. But here's the rub. If you bought the previous rear-wheel drive Model Y with 260 miles of range, you essentially have the same car, but with a portion of the battery pack is inaccessible, so you're carrying around basically some extra ballast. So, but I guess the good news, maybe, if you want more range, you should be able to pay Tesla $1,500 to $2,000 at some point in the future, depending on which battery cells you have. Apparently, there's cells from two different suppliers in there. So Musk says that Tesla is working through regulatory approvals to enable that opening up of the battery pack. This is something they've done in the past too, right? With different versions of the Tesla Model S. Was it the 40s? They went down as far as like 40 or so in the past. Do y'all remember that?
I forget which one it was, but yeah. I thought it was
It's
bigger.
happened many times. It was the 60 to 75. It was the 40 to
Right.
60. And there's been countless examples. There was just recently one for Model S, actually, where they did a software locked large pack only 6 months ago, a year ago, something like that. It was pretty recent.
Right. So this is kind of common or standard practice, I guess, at Tesla doing that. Software blocked. I don't know what to say about it, but anyway, if you want a long range Tesla Model Y, rear-wheel drive, it's up on the site. It's $3,000 cheaper than the dual motor, and gets you 10 miles farther down the road. EPA range, at least. Okay. So finally, last story of the day. Let's talk about something besides Tesla. This week, WattEV, which is a company building heavy-duty electric vehicle infrastructure, and which also offers trucks as a service, opened up a solar-powered truck charging depot in Bakersfield, California. It's a 119-acre site. And while it has a ton of solar powers that power it, there isn't a canopy. So basically, they've got 100 acres with solar panels on it, and then they have 19 acres with a parking lot, and I believe they have a building as well. There's restrooms on site, and I believe they have a building that they want to lease out for food or merchandisers of some kind of other. Let's see, it's in Bakersfield, California. The panels are mounted really close to the ground, actually, and there's like no space between them, so they can really, I forget exactly how many megawatts it is. It's quite a significantly sized system. So this is the company's 4th location, and it features a solar-powered microgrid with a battery energy storage system. It's capable of megawatt rapid charging, so they have 3 MCS, megawatt charging system connector things, 1,200 kilowatts, that's 1.2 gigawatt chargers, but they also have like 16 dual cord 360 kilowatt chargers and 15 single cord 240 kilowatt CCS chargers. So lots of charging for everyone going down, if you're coming up through the middle of California there from the San Joaquin Valley, I guess north or east or north or west, no, north or south. I don't know my cardinal points. I'm losing it. Must be close to the end of the show. Yes, so lots of charging. And earlier this month, WattEV, they've opened charging sites in San Bernardino and Gardena. And last year they opened up a station at the port of Long Beach. So, and they have a bunch more locations on their plans for this year. They're really kind of pushing fast. So I'm not really super familiar with this company, but if you want to learn more about it, Jordan from AutoSpec went to visit it, and he put together an episode with Francie on the AutoSpec podcast. And I fell asleep listening to it last night. And
that's how most people watch our videos. That's why they're long. Just sleep.
I mean, it didn't put me to sleep.
Just let them play. Do a playlist and let the whole thing play all night. It's fine.
Well, we always set the recommended next video to be an out of spec video. So when you're asleep, they should just keep rolling.
Just keep playing.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll also have a full reviews video.
Right. Yeah, we wanted to have. I was hoping to have Jordan on today, but he had to hit the road early in the morning. And early because he was there with you, right? And it's like it was 5:30 when 7:30 when we start to California time.
6:30 California time.
6:30. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm sorry, man. Anyway, so I don't know what to say. If anyone wants to say, just wake up listening to Kyle in your head. Hello, you join me here. Right.
Hello and welcome.
Right. Yeah, Mark Norman says Jordan's been killing it lately. Good stuff. And it's true. He's got does he have like a Rivian tour video coming up soon?
Yeah, of their theater, which is not car related, but still cool.
Right. Right, I saw like he had little trailers or spoilers or something on Twitter. It's just
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure 3 people will watch it, but it'll be a very interesting video for 3 people.
right, yeah, some fancy drone footage.
Yeah, it doesn't. He spends too much time on that stuff.
I know you're straight ahead. iPhone. Here's the content. Jordan likes to dress it up a little bit, but I like.
Yeah, and if you look at the numbers, it does worse. So it's like people obviously don't want that.
Yeah, I don't know. I like watching Jordan's videos, but anyway, I don't know anybody. Anybody? Are you guys familiar with WattEV at all?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've been to
okay.
a few of their sites now. They're huge, coming into the medium and heavy duty space for fleet applications and electrifying ports. They'll be having trucks that they can electrify, so you can basically, rent Volvo VNRs or Freightliner e-Cascadias or EM2s or something from them and use their charging infrastructure. So they're getting into the full round trip of EV, medium and heavy duty. This is one of the few sites that will be open to passenger car traffic. Because most of them are going to be for fleet use, is my understanding. But they're going hardcore, full send. It's new hardware, so it's not been proven yet, and we have a long ways to go.
Right. There still has to be this is not a standard, right? The MCS.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much done, close to being done. Maybe it should have been done by now.
I mentioned on a recent podcast that it was frustrating that it hadn't been done, and somebody from Charon reached out to me via LinkedIn to say, give us a shout, we'll make a special podcast and we'll update you. But it's all going ahead. It's all fine. Yeah. It's just that we're dotting the I's. But it seems to be frustrating from the outside. It's still not officially a standard, but as Kyle says, it basically is. It's done.
Yeah, but I mean, I was just with those Charon folks a couple days ago, and we talked a lot about MCS. And yeah, you can make it work now for specialty applications. There's proof of it working. Scania's been doing demos. Volvo's been doing demos. So it functions.
Yeah, it's either Volvo or Mercedes, the e-Actros, and they're selling their trucks, but they've had to put CCS2 sockets on the side of them.
Yeah, and they put 2 of them.
Yeah, so it's like because they're German, and they're like, well, it's not a standard yet, so we'll sell it. So when MCS it does become a standard very, very soon, those trucks will go back. They'll have this that I'll put on screen swapped out, and then they'll go from half. They'll charge twice as fast.
Nice.
So there's different versions of MCS. There's a 1500 amp and a 3000 amp level typically is what we're seeing people focus on. And of course, up to 1000 volts, so up to 3 megawatts in theory is what you can put through that little plug right there. And it's actually not that little, but it's still a lot of power. So yeah, interesting to see how this goes.
I visited their Long Beach port location, WattEV, and honestly, the truck as a service is something that I think will take off if they implement it correctly.
Okay.
It's a lot of companies love the knowledge of knowing their exact cost for everything, for maintenance, for the truck, for fueling. It's worth something to them to even pay a little bit more to have a set cost, so that they can price everything out when fuel goes up and goes down, and when trucks break down and they need to be fixed. That throws off companies profits. But when they know their fleet's going to cost them X amount of dollars, as long as the trucks can do the duty that they need them to, travel where they need to, recharge where they need to, I think that would be something that many companies would go for.
Yeah, I guess I need to look into it more, because I hadn't, for some reason, it just wasn't on my radar, and I saw it and it got, all this is happening, and we've got plans for so many more locations, and I don't know, I think it feels like they're pushing harder and doing more in this space than anybody else, right? No?
There's a lot of stuff going on in this space, Dominic.
Right. You
should come to ACT in Las Vegas. You'll see a lot of the fleet and large-scale electrification that's happening.
That's coming up. Is that this week?
It's in 2 weeks.
Next week. Okay.
Week and a half, something like that.
I mean, that'd be. I should actually.
The 20th through the 22nd is when I'll be there.
Okay, that'd be cool. Actually, I should look into that. All right, but I guess that should probably bring us to the end of this show. We got places to go, things to do, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
cars to charge.
I got to fly to Germany, so I'm gonna go get the new Taycan and do some big miles. You'll see videos coming on that.
Awesome.
Nice. Is that a chance to play with a Vizak or the 4-seater?
Yes. So they offered whichever version I wanted to get, which was really great of them. However, I just selected the most efficient car they had because I want to do the 10% challenges, the range, the charging. And so, the US press cars won't arrive for some time. So I was like, I have a 4-day gap in the schedule. I'll go fly over, get the testing done. Because that to me is going to be a benchmark car. So I want to benchmark it best I can. And I'll probably see some other cars while I'm over there as well. I want to check out some BYD stuff, maybe go to the Netherlands and look at an Xpeng G9 would be kind of cool. So yeah, I'm just going on my own little mini vacation, testing a whole bunch of stuff for the next few days.
Sweet. Sounds good. And I guess we'll hear about this next week. If hopefully you're somewhere where I can get in touch with you.
Actually, let's see. I will be driving Chevy Silverado, RST, and Equinox a week from today in Michigan. So I'm not sure what that program consists of.
All right. So we'll have to play it by ear. We'll see. But in the meantime, I guess that brings us to the end of this show. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below or get in touch with us on the social media platform of your choice. Don't forget, if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up. Have you hit the thumbs up button yet? Click subscribe. Tap that bell icon for notifications so you don't miss any of our midweek shows. Just want to mention we had a great Battery Bargains episode last week with this past week with Brandon Flash coming in as a guest, and he does a great job. He's really good at this. It was fun so we did it with him and Tom. And so click subscribe, tap that bell icon for notifications, and thank you all very much for joining us. And we'll see you again very soon. Ciao.